And good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We'll call the July 9th Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start with the agenda review.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
Okay,
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. Okay, move on to the child care forgivable loan request.
Morning, Jennifer. You can come right up.
Come right up here to the front.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Jennifer. How are you today?
Good. I'm Jennifer Bromlin, City Administrator at the City of Eagle Lake. This will be, I think, the third time I've been here to talk to you guys about getting a forgivable loan for the child care program. This morning I'm here to talk about an application we received from Little Sprouts Daycare and Preschool in Eagle Lake. They submitted an application totaling $19,142.62. Both the Eagle Lake EDA and the City Council have been working with the owners of Little Sprouts and feel comfortable in recommending that that loan application be approved. We've also worked with Brian Stading and Mark Wright with Regional Center for Entrepreneurial Facilitation. To date, out of the $35,000 that was allocated for Eagle Lake, there's been a $6,800 loan given to Hammond Home Daycare in Eagle Lake and also a $5,600 loan issued to Epiphany Lutheran Preschool. So that leaves a balance of $22,600. And then with the Little Sprouts application, we pretty much have exhausted the funds that you've allocated for Eagle Lake. So it's good to see that there's so much interest in this program and it's so important. So with that, included in the information that I submitted is the use of funds narrative from the Little Sprouts owner, Andrew and Crystal Miller. They are hoping to be able to expand to a second location within the next 5 years, and they're requesting these funds to be able to purchase some items that otherwise would set them back as far as being able to get to that second location sooner. So, and Andrew Miller is in the audience tonight.
Okay.
If you have
Hi,
any,
Andrew.
or excuse me, this morning, if you have any questions.
Good. Okay, any questions for Jennifer?
I don't have any questions, but I'll move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I have a question. How many do you plan on serving?
Yeah.
I might have missed that.
Hi, Andrew Miller, owner of Little Sprouts Preschool and Daycare with my wife. And you can need address 701 Maple Lane, Eagle Lake.
That's
So right now we serve 50 children, and we don't have a capacity to expand at this time. Our building is maxed out as far as physical space.
Okay.
So that's why as Jennifer stated, we're looking to use the funds right now so we can eventually move into a second location or make a bigger facility. So not an expansion at this time, but trying to get to that point.
Okay. Thank you. Childcare is so important. I mean,
Yeah.
we all know how few spaces there are, and so thank you for doing that.
Yep, appreciate it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, there's no other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Have a good day.
You too. Okay, let's move on to Public Works.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
How are you doing this beautiful morning?
Wonderful.
So far, so good.
So far, so dry. Not too
Yeah,
long.
right.
We've got a relatively light agenda as far as action items go, but the first order of business is consideration and discussion of bids for county project number 792. This is for the Rapidan Dam left retaining wall repairs. As you may recall, as part of the DNR dam safety grant that we used to complete the work on the dam in 2016 and 2017, there's approximately $250,000 remaining on that grant. That original grant was $2.4 million. we wanted to try to put that to work on the dam. One of the items noted in the PFMA study on the dam that was completed in 2015 was the left wall as a concern, not necessarily a high priority item, but as a concern. So we thought we'd like to try to put that to work to make repairs and basically do a concrete overlay of that left retaining wall or west retaining wall as you're looking downstream of the dam, looking to the north. The work is fairly challenging to cost estimate because it's specialized work that requires specialized contractors with cranes and the correct equipment, and it's a lot of labor-intensive type of work with limited quantities and limited productivity. So we took a shot at an estimate that we thought, based on the unit prices we'd had, we didn't have a lot of unit prices for the identical type of work because, again, it is very specialized. We had a cost estimate of approximately $325,000, and as you can see, we did receive several bids. The low bid was PCI Roads at $543,537. The second bid was Engineering Construction Innovations Incorporated at $565,085. Also bids from Kramer North America, $947,505, and Meyer Contracting, $985,580. Several things I think led into the bid being well over our engineer's estimate. Obviously, the challenge in estimating the cost for this, but because we had to have the Federal Energy Regulatory Committee review of our plans and approvals, that did delay us getting this out to bid. Our original intention was to have this bid in May or June, and at the federal level, things don't work that quickly. So we were forced to delay bids until July. With that being said, we have the $250,000 of the DNR Dam Safety Grant funding. That was extended until the end of 2019. We could ask for another extension of that. I'm not very confident that we'll get it. And even with that being said, I'm not confident that we'll get bids that are any lower than what we're seeing here. We have within Public Works a savings account for the Rapidan Dam that's been gaining what little money we get from hydroelectric generation. There's a little over $100,000 in that account that we could apply towards this project. But that obviously still leaves us well short of our objective. The remainder of the funds to complete this project would have to come from county general funds. So I would like to just open it up to the county board for discussion and answer any questions. The wall is in poor condition. It's not an imminent failure threat, but if we don't address it, we will have to address it down the road.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Ryan?
Sure. So what you're saying, if we don't use that 250,000, we lose it?
Correct.
And we need to use that by what time?
By the end of this year.
End of this year.
Yep. So we have the contract set up for the contractor to complete the work by November so that we could submit the cost to the DNR for reimbursement. And so trying to capitalize and leverage those dollars that are available to us through that dam safety grant.
Mr. Chair, I'm directionally challenged. What is the west wall?
So if you're looking downstream of the dam,
Uh-huh.
to the left
Okay.
wall. Yep.
Okay.
Toward the store.
Yep.
Yeah.
Towards the dam store. And this is obviously concerning because right now we're with the recent damages that potentially happened to the apron that we've been unable to define, as well as some of the damages to the powerhouse. There is a very high likelihood, almost a certainty, that we will have to have a subsequent repair project at the dam. And until we figure out if we're going to obtain FEMA funds for that, that's going to be a massive project regardless. That the $250,000 may not be available to help us at that point. Until we figure out where we're obtaining our funding for that project, that is concerning. So I certainly recognize that and respect that.
All the ones that bid, they all have some kind of experience with.
Yeah, PCI and Kramer we've worked with in the past. In fact, PCI just completed some bridge seal repairs for us. We have not worked with Engineering Construction Innovation or Meyer. PCI did state that they felt they had a good bid. They were hungry for the work and have appetite and have capacity to do it in a timely manner. And he thought, he was surprised to see our estimate, and we were surprised that his number in the same breath. But he did obviously have the best number of all of the contractors. I
Yeah.
think that the two that were astronomically high are not that hungry for the work, and we're just throwing a bid at it for,
See if they get it.
yeah. And to an extent, the number that we put here was based on numbers that we had received from Kramer in 2017 when we had asked them for a price to do some of the work. And that was during high flow conditions, pushing up against winter where they were concerned about having to do insulation of the concrete to protect it from freezing. So we knocked that price down a little bit, but we were in the same ballpark with what they had provided us with in 2017.
One more question.
Sure, yes.
I know the hole that we're concerned about, that we're going to apply for FEMA money. Do we have any idea what that will cost?
As a spitball estimate,
Yeah.
based on previous projects to do apron repairs, we put in for $1 million
Okay.
to FEMA.
I was just
To
kind
get
of
the
curious.
access road down and do the pumping and dewatering that it takes to go and do any kind of work downstream, as well as setting the upstream and downstream gates. By the time we start that, it's usually at least $1 million.
Thanks. I
sure.
figured it was around there, but
It's never cheap.
yeah.
So Ryan, I heard you say we have 100,000 from the revenues from the dam, and I might have just missed where we're gonna get the rest of the money then? You're just gonna shift some stuff around? I mean, you're still, my calculations, if you only have 100 and 250,
grand.
that's 350.
Right. So
What's the plan for the rest of the money then at this point?
this year, I can say that the Public Works, our budget, if everything goes out the door, is budgeted fairly tight. We could look at a transfer out of some of, if we have excess dollars. One of the projects that may not go is 10. That may enable us to move some money around.
Okay.
Or perhaps looking at use of general fund money to complete the work.
Exactly what my question, where's that extra 200,000?
You know, we only have limited dollars that can be used for the dam. Obviously, our county stated highway money or sales tax dollars cannot be applied.
Right.
Really, the only one that leaves us with any wiggle room is our local levy dollars, and I'll have to see where we're sitting at as far as this year and projects we've had those allocated towards, and if we can transfer money around. Sometimes the rules of the funding streams that we have don't permit them to be applied to other projects, but we'd certainly be more than willing to look at that.
I mean, we have to do this because we can't lose out on the $250,000. But we have to figure
It all
out.
has to be done anyway.
We have to repair it, and we can't afford to lose out on the $250,000 that's still on the table.
Yeah.
It'd be bad
Absolutely.
business
It's
for us
just
to
that, can we find somebody that wants to buy this for $1?
I will put a for
Sell
sale
it.
sign on it if you like.
How about we pay somebody to take it? I would be willing. Just one or two more comments.
Yes.
Real quick, but yeah, I mean your bids are. It's where you was off mostly from what I can see is the removal and installation, and that has to be challenging trying to figure out
How much and to
how
what
much and
extent.
how do you do that? I mean, because that's a couple hundred, 170-some thousand right there, and them two. Otherwise the rest of the bid, it looks pretty competitive or pretty accurate. But that's just hard to. All the experience we have with working with that dam, we still can't seem to.
So some of the challenge too was the fact that they do have to coordinate with the powerhouse generation and disconnect the
Sure.
electrical supply to relocate temporarily relocate and then reinstall the conduits. So I think they were concerned that there were significant costs of dealing with Excel associated with that, as well as Eagle Creek. So a fair amount of coordination for a small productivity and small quantity project.
Yes, I would move to approve.
Okay,
I thought somebody did.
Second.
okay. Any further discussion? Okay, if there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
All right, thank you. We'll do our best to keep the old girl standing, so.
You can thank my predecessor for us owning the dam.
At that point in time, it was a good idea.
You know what, it was, and it's earned its way through history and all the stuff, and we've done tours through the middle of that dam, and
I'm actually,
it's an amazing place, but man, I tell you, sure is a cost.
absolutely. And the fine print of the 1910 agreement to allow the county to use the top of the dam as the road and as the bridge deck is what obviously caught us up in becoming the owners of it in 1970. I'm actually giving a tour out there this afternoon to a group of science, technology, engineering, and math. I think it's middle schoolers through a program that MSU has. So they had contacted me about what tours could we do, and I thought, well, the dam is a pretty neat tour to do, and we won't go down into the bowels of it. That's no longer safe.
Neat
But
pictures you can take down there.
absolutely,
Maybe MSU would like to buy it.
I'll ask them.
Yes, to give it to state taxpayers.
All right. I've got some just informational items and updates, so feel free to jump in with questions as we go, please. County State Highway 1, Old Highway 66. The road was finished from Island Road north to Glen Avenue, so that's been paved. The slopes have been graded on the boulevards, and it's coming around. So a portion of that is open, albeit primarily just down to the bottom to the township road. They're working actively on the reinforced soil slope number 1. That's the 70-degree faced wall, so they're working on excavating portions of it as well as constructing. There's kind of a high point in the middle, so they're building from both ends until they meet up in the middle. That wall has obviously the rock layer at the bottom that provides the drainage, the chimney drain, and then it comes up with the layers of sand and geogrid fabric, and then actually at the face there's a faced plastic geogrid where the outer 6 feet is filled with granular material, and those are stacked on top of each other, and the outer layer is topsoil with seed mixed in. So that's where we're going to get the nearly vertical 70-degree slope. So
Yeah, well, what we don't want is like the Judson Bottom Road, all the rock and stuff coming down.
absolutely, yep.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool right now.
Yeah, it is. It's very labor intensive, but then you do think about how much slope and how much right of way and how many
Pretty
trees that
amazing
saved
the
us.
type of engineering that goes into that is.
Absolutely. And I think when we're done, it'll be an award-winning project, so that's something we should be really proud of. Mathewitz is placing surcharge on the chute fill area at the planned intervals, and the wet conditions have inhibited the remaining grading. I did talk with the Army Corps of Engineers last week. They were doing the tribal consultations for the artifacts that were found. The tribes somewhat failed to provide a response to the Corps, so the Corps is moving forward with their determination. He wouldn't tell me last week what his determination was going to be, whether or not we could prove that we have no adverse effect by effectively filling on top of the road and avoiding excavation through that section. So they do anticipate getting the determination out for the State Historic Preservation Office to review this week, and we'll be copied on that so that we're brought up to speed on what their determination is. But at least it helps us hopefully move towards a resolution. We're still uncertain whether or not we'll be able to complete the surcharge this year. If we're not able to complete the surcharge this year, unfortunately that pushes the reconstruction of that piece back another year, so likely into 2021 before we can really do the work.
Why the Army Corps as opposed to just SHPO?
The Army Corps, because of the wetland permit,
Okay,
and then they become responsible for effectively permitting wetlands, navigable waters, and then when the artifacts are discovered, then it's coordinated with SHPO as well as the tribal consultation.
I just couldn't think of where the wetland was.
Yep, there's some down in the bottom
Down
area
below,
that we're going
yeah.
through. Yeah. And it doesn't help, not to complain, but the project manager for our permit has, I think we're on the 4th person now. It seems to change every 6 to 8 months, and we've lost traction in that regard, is even with my efforts and with the efforts of SRF, and MnDOT's assisted us as well on trying to put pressure to them, but it's a massive federal process that takes quite some time. County State Highway 14 from Minnesota Highway 30 to 4, that work's progressing very well. Much of the grading is roughed in, so Mathewitz is really hitting it hard when the sun shines and when it's dry enough to do the work. The work as far as days and dollars is approximately 40% completed, but as far as you look at the effort that has to go into it, because your aggregates and paving are always much more expensive than the grading component, I'd say they're past the 50% point as far as work completion, so it's really shaping up and moving along quickly. 17 roundabout at Hafner Drive. SMC and their subcontractor completed the water main connections the last week or two, and SMC is now working on the storm sewer system in the roundabout. That does require some challenges because of the county tile main, or now as it comes into the city, and bypass pumping that water. There's a tremendous amount of water that seldom goes dry, and the pipe is relatively small for the amount of water that it handles, so it's constantly flowing full. So they did block it off and are bypass pumping it to keep the levels down, and working on completing as much of it as quickly as possible so that they can cross it back over. Box culvert bridges, County State Highway 40 and 111 culverts are completed and they're open to traffic. Contractor's working on 144 on the first one, and they'll be on to the second one fairly soon. The Luray Township 282 schedule is to be determined. That's the one just southeast of Eagle Lake. That crossing still has considerable flow through it. And then the recently awarded County State Highway 4 box is going to be sometime this fall. The lead time on box culverts has gotten to be almost like 12 weeks before from order to delivery.
Wow.
So we're looking at getting that completed this fall, which should work out fine. We typically will replace a couple of box culverts in the fall because it dries up a little bit, and it's usually there's contractor appetite for that work at that time of the year. And our bituminous overlays are all completed, so we're glad to have those behind us. Our planning projects updates: CASA 10 from the Blue Earth River to CASA 1. Right-of-way acquisitions are going well, but they are very time-consuming. Jack is very detail-oriented and does a fantastic job meeting with the residents out there and working with them through their concerns. There are a lot of parcels out there, and he's working through that process. The Army Corps of Engineers permit has been approved, so when the right-of-way is completed, we will assess whether or not there's any benefit to trying to bid it yet this fall. The thought was originally that perhaps we could get some of the crossings done, maybe even grade a small portion of it. But if we get into, September, October, probably wise to just pump the brakes and hit it for 2020 project. We'll obviously have it out to bid early as soon as we have all of the right-of-way acquired, and hope to get good prices on it in that way. 27 from 17 to 2, the design is progressing. Challenges on that project are going to be primarily drainage oriented. The entire project is very poorly drained, and several areas the road overtops fairly frequently every couple of years. So we have to design the new road to meet a 25-year minimum overtopping frequency. With that being said, we've been meeting with MnDOT and some of the landowners where we're looking to make some drainage changes to discuss those impacts as well as the alignment issues and provide more clear direction to SRF's design staff as far as how we want to proceed with the drainage design. So we're looking at potential pond locations where we can do overland drainage, where we have to install some fairly significant tiles to drain the water away from the road right of way where it doesn't drain currently. But all in all, it'll be a good project. 41 bridge.
Good showing at the open house.
Absolutely.
A lot of good feedback.
And we had good meetings. We had, I think, 3 yesterday with landowners.
You did, okay.
And good meetings for landowners, or renters, I should say.
Okay.
Good meetings, and I think people were generally supportive of the project and recognize the need, and definitely understand that there's a need to repair some of the drainage, but it is a give and take both for the county and the residents. Design is progressing for the 41 bridge replacement. That's a federally funded bridge scheduled for next year. Kern Bridge removal and salvage. The plans are in our office. I've signed them. They're ready to be submitted to MnDOT for approval this week. Because it is federally funded, it does require central office approval, so that takes a little bit longer, as well as a delegated contract process. Documents have to be submitted. The Army Corps of Engineers permit is approved. They were going to SHPO for final plan review, but we're doing that in parallel with the plan review from MnDOT, and we're hoping to open bids in late August for that project and get it underway. That will be a challenging project. It's a precarious situation where that southeast footing is not very solid, and the contractor's going to have to do some rigging to support the bridge while they remove it. But
Are you working with the same person from the Army Corps on this that you are on the other project, or a different one?
Different
Okay.
project manager approved
Okay.
that permit
Yeah.
because that was a lesser impact and it didn't have wetland impacts.
Okay. I was just curious if there was any consistency.
Yeah, and actually in that circumstance, I had called and emailed Dave Studensky with the Corps, and he accelerated that permit for us. So
Nice.
that was fantastic. The 57 and Riverfront Drive roundabout interchange at US 14, preliminary design is underway. When we're working on coordination with MnDOT, with the project partners of MnDOT, City of Mankato, and then obviously our design staff at Bolton and Mink that's helping with that project. Pretty significant undertaking when you have to deal with the trunk highway process and all of the different steps along the way. But CASA 60 and Pole Roundabout, the city is taking the lead on that project. They've surveyed the intersection and are beginning the design. We should be seeing an intent to cost participate agreement fairly soon for board consideration. So in the next couple of months, once the city, typically our process is the agency that's leading on the project develops that agreement, even though we've got a kind of a common shared agreement that we use on projects. So they'll be providing that to us for consideration. And last but not least, I'll end with some good news. The CASA 16 trail is from 60 to Pleasant Street. Excuse me. We were recently notified that we are awarded an additional $150,000 of a local trail connection program funding through the Department of Natural Resources. That was a grant application we put in this past winter.
Great.
So we've got that, plus we've got the $400,000 of Transportation Alternatives Program funding that we obtained. This DNR money will require that we advance fund the TAP money because the TAP money was programmed for 2023 fiscal year. This funding the work has to be completed by June 30th, 2021. So our objective is to get the design completed, the project memorandum and all of the documents approved so that we could put that out to bid either 2020, midpoint of the year, or very, very early 2021 to get that work completed on time.
That sounds good.
So
Good job.
we're very excited about that additional funding.
That helps a lot.
Absolutely.
The city of Mankato will be happy too.
But absolutely, what looked like a daunting project from a funding standpoint, I think it goes to show the benefit of putting it in your capital program and showing that you're committing to doing the work and then chasing after some money after the fact. I think it's really benefited us, and then it just kind of snowballs.
Yep.
Sounds excellent.
All right, any other questions?
I don't think I have
Very
any.
good.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you, Ryan.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, move on to the Justice Center parking expansion. Tim?
Morning, Tim.
Morning, Tim.
Morning, Tim.
Morning, Tim.
Good.
Thanks for having me this morning.
Oh, it's always nice to see your shining face and always a smile.
Bright and cheery this morning, so
There you go.
just moving some stuff over at the government center, so I got all my energy back. So, here this morning, just wanted to talk with you a little bit about the Justice Center parking area. We've been kind of monitoring the parking up there, and when we have the busy days regarding jury trials or conciliation court, the parking lot fills up rather quickly. We got cars parking alongside the ring road, which makes it kind of difficult for the emergency vehicles to come out of that backside and get out of the parking lot quicker with the cars there and people kind of crossing that ring road. So we looked at expanding the parking lot on the north side, kind of right outside of dispatch out there. We just kind of add on from the existing parking lot on that north side and just going a little further east. We could capture another 67 stalls on that side. We kind of align it so it would match with the existing parking lot with the kind of the medians there as well, and kind of some drainage. We'd have a storm drain on the west side of the parking lot, and then the parking lot would drain towards the rain garden to the east as well. So we got two bids that came in on that. Low bid came in from Nielsen Blacktopping for $125,921. I visited with them a little bit to see what their schedule was like yet this year to make sure we could get it in. And they confirmed I told them I'd be meeting with the county board today. They said if I could let them know as quick as possible, they'll still be able to get it in the schedule this year.
Perfect.
Okay,
So,
I'll move approval.
Second.
any discussion?
I noticed, we have a couple open areas there. The one on the north west corner Now, is there a lowland there or a?
Yeah, there's a rain garden on that
Rain
northwest
garden
corner up front
So
there.
that would pretty much hamper anything going in there, I would imagine.
Yeah, we wouldn't get much there. We even when we first built the Justice Center, we looked at adding, or we had some additional parking there, and we kind of backed off, and they said we should be good for 15 years. 10 years later, here we are.
And then there's another one that wouldn't give you much, but over by the jail, over on the west side of the jail, there's another open spot that you could get in probably 20.
Some additional stalls there on that west
So I
side.
see we have a couple extra routes that we could go on, but that area that you chose is the best, obviously, but no, I was just gonna bring up some extra ones
If we ever had to expand out
if
there.
they have to. I mean, that wouldn't give you that much more room. I mean, you could probably squeeze in part of that northwest corner so you don't get into that rain garden area, but you could get some parking there, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. We didn't really research that of what we could get there. I know we kind of looked at that northeast side, and we didn't want to get too far back because we're kind of coming straight off of where the sheriff's garage is back there, kind of coming straight off of that, so that people can't get around that backside to see where some of the cars are back there as well, and see where the squads are parked or anything else like that. So.
Okay.
Good.
Just brought that up.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Tim, as far as the drainage off the parking lot, we got plenty of capacity in the ponds. We don't have to deal with any of that.
Correct, yes,
There's
we got
plenty of
the
room.
storm drain there as well
Okay.
that will feed it. Once it gets full enough, and it's been pretty dry back there,
Yeah.
which,
Well, I think we probably designed that pond, because this was, well, I don't know if this is exactly where it was in the plans when we built the Justice Center, but we backed that off.
yep.
And was this the plan where it was supposed to be, or was it somewhere else? I don't remember where it was supposed to be. We just
Yeah,
shaved it down by
I think
100
it was,
stalls.
we had some there. I don't
Okay.
remember how many we had, but I think
Our
that
capacity for the drainage should be plenty.
would be plenty
Okay,
there yet.
perfect.
Correct. Yep.
That's the only question I had, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anything else?
Just one question. I think this makes the most sense just because it'd probably cost just as much for 20 stalls to blacktop it as opposed to 70.
Oh, this is,
Yeah, but how much land do we actually have left there? Do you have any idea?
We have some land on the backside
Backside,
back
yeah.
there. That's kind of where our wells are, and kind of where some of the wetlands are back there.
Yeah.
But we have some room on the backside of the building.
On the east side.
East
and north.
South, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. East side back in there.
What's it look at? Like,
Heading towards Eagle Lake.
okay,
Heading
thank
towards the
you.
lake, correct. Yep.
And then to the south a little
Yeah.
more.
I think this makes the most sense. I was just curious how much land we had left.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
southeast
And how,
corner
what,
we
is
have
any of it buildable?
all the wells are
Yeah.
where that
Right.
is at.
The wells are problematic for building anything on.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
could build over the top of it, but if we ever had an issue,
You rip it all up.
we had to rip it all out,
Yeah.
right?
Well, if I recall, we were looking at touring justice centers when we looked at this, and they were talking, we were looking at some in Iowa and, on 10 and 12 and 15 acres, and we bought 40, thinking we'd have all this extra land.
Then we should have
Yeah.
bought more.
By the time you get done with the drainage and the roads and
Story
the...
County,
yeah,
Iowa.
yeah.
That's
Was that
where
the
we
one?
went, Story
Yeah.
County, yeah. Ames.
I see you already got a couple estimates, but how fast do you think they can get it completed?
He just said he would get it on the schedule, and if it was approved, he said we could get it done yet this year. If you guys approve this, then I'll hit him up to see how soon he can get at it as well.
Okay.
We added some more capacity up there, of course, with some of our moves, so parking lot's filling up a lot quicker, so it'd be nice to get it done, so.
In the interim, is there a place where staff can park back there as opposed to, no?
Yeah,
Okay.
not really.
I just thought I'd ask the
No,
question.
There's not a whole lot of room up there for parking, that's the bad thing. so.
Okay. I was just trying to think of opening up some stalls
Sure.
closer to, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you,
Tim.
appreciate it.
Drainage. Come on up, Ryan.
Morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Ryan.
Ryan.
How's everybody?
Good?
Good.
Well, in the board packet this morning, you'll find a findings and order for the JD 17 improvement project. I'm here this morning to ask for approval from the Drainage Authority to set a hearing date. The hearing date's purpose is for discussing the preliminary engineer's report from ISG. The hearing date that we are seeking approval for will be August 6th, 2019 at 9 a.m. here on the second floor of the Blue Earth County Historic Courthouse building in the current boardroom.
Okay,
I'll move approval.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay,
Second item would be a repair report for JD 51, which was a cleaning project that we actually just finished last Friday. Turned out really well. It was a big one. That was a cooperative effort with Waseca County. Almost 9 miles of ditch cleaning, so that's a big one. So the issue was the hydro seeding was not part of the original bid package from the general contractor that did the cleaning. So you'll see that we actually did get the hydro seeding done, and it exceeded our $15,000 allotment for authorization, and we came up with a little over $31,000 for the hydro seeding. So seeking approval for that invoice.
okay,
Otherwise, that project is pretty well done. So.
okay, we've got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Ryan.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Are we good?
That hydro seeding is really
expensive.
cool. You have to have at least an
It's
acre.
expensive, but it's the most efficient
Yeah.
way to do it.
Yeah.
It's amazing how quickly it comes up, about 6 to 8 days.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
My son and daughter-in-law did it at, they have over an acre.
Yep.
You have to have an acre in order to do it.
Worth bringing the equipment on, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
And their yard is just gorgeous.
Yeah. Yep.
And it came up so quick.
It should for what they
Yeah.
charge.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Ryan.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ryan.
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 Okay, move on to the county attorney's update.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I know you've got a heavy schedule in front of you today with this morning's session and then this afternoon. I really don't have much to add to the report. If there's any specific questions that you have relating to anything, any function of the office or whatnot, I'd be more than happy to address those with you. Otherwise, I'll just keep things short and simple and to the point.
I don't have any.
I don't have any specific questions.
So up to date comparison to other years, are we about average or?
We're in the ballpark, Mr. Commissioner. We've got, we're down as of right now on some of the, for example, on the adult felony caseload. Our drug crimes are still about the same, if not, they spiked a couple of years ago. But in some of the areas of child protection and that kind of ebbs and flows every other year into some of the child protection cases turn into termination cases. So we're kind of in a little bit of that cycle, but I do believe that the out-of-home placements, and I believe that Phil could answer that for you more fully. I think the out-of-home placements have been up drastically comparatively. In those areas, we're on track to have quite a few more CHIPS cases that have been filed, and with the newer in the last few years, couple years, the stringent timelines on some of those cases, those get pushed through the system rather quickly.
Okay.
Pat, how often does it turn in, do you know how often it turns into termination as opposed to?
Probably I would say maybe only about 10 or 20% of the time,
Okay.
if that. But it's just, it seems that by the time that the cases come up for review a few months down the road and whatnot, and I was just talking yesterday about an individual that was coming into, or that is now in our adult drug court that started out in our family chemical dependency court because there are more services available I shouldn't say not necessarily more services, but there's more resources available to monitor some of those things. So, and that person has a couple of kids that have been in out-of-home placement for quite some time that we're moving towards termination because of the timelines. And that individual is going to another treatment facility. Hopefully, I think she'll be leaving today. So, but it just, that kind of ebbs and flows between, if we get 20 terminations a year, we're doing,
A lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but the vast
Tough
majority of the
stuff.
time, it's reunification and whatnot, and that's always the goal. But it's always the best interest of the children.
Well, the safety,
Right. Right.
Okay,
So-
anything else for Pat?
Your report looks good, thank you.
Yes, thank
Thanks,
you, Pat.
Pat.
Thank you.
Okay, you want to move on to administrative services, Bob?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the first item is the county board minutes for June 25th.
I'll move the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved?
Next would be the bills for the 2 weeks indicated.
I would move the bills.
Second?
Any discussion?
I've got a couple here.
Okay, go ahead.
Palmer Soderberg for $115,000. Building acquisition, construction.
What's that one?
That would be the government center project.
Okay. Another one is Qualifax.
That is that mental health center data system. We received that grant from the state, and we're the fiscal agent. We received some extra money for doing that, but it's to try and get that mental health reporting system to work a little better.
Okay. Computer Tech Solutions for $324,000.
That is equipment for our networking. It's our SAN, Storage Area Network, I believe is the acronym, but we're actually duplicating both at the Government Center and at the Justice Center so that we have a fully functional backup system. So it's actually 2 of those SANs.
Okay.
Anything else?
PCI Roads LLC construction, $143,000. It's in the second one.
No, that's.
PCIROADS Roads.
Looks like it's 4 items related to bridge expansion joint repairs. So that's actually, I think, the group that Ryan was just talking about that bid for the Rapidan Dam, but they're also doing some bridge work for us.
Okay.
PCI roads. That's what they're talking about.
Thank you.
I saw them come in, so.
No? So, any other questions? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bills are approved.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 8 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda, just informational items for the board today. We have filled a license center administrator position, so that's an important role in the license center. We've also filled a children's mental health case manager as well as a part-time custody officer. We also did receive a resignation of a care coordinator in the Human Services Department, so we've initiated recruitment to fill that position, along with the resignation of a medium equipment operator, and obviously the subsequent recruitment initiated for that position. We also did receive a resignation of a custody officer, so we're back at the recruitment efforts there. And then we also received a resignation of our payroll and benefits coordinator, so we're beginning, we're going to maybe look at some organization within our Human Resources Department before we begin recruitment there. And then we had a couple of individuals that completed their employment both at the library as well as in dispatch and have begun recruitment to fill those positions. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have on any of those items. All right, item number 9 in your packet is the financial status report for June 30th. This is the halfway point of our fiscal year, and so you'll see that our total revenue so far is a little over $44 million against expenses of $45.8 million, so we have about a $1.8 million deficit at this point. The board will recall that we had planned for about a $12 million deficit for the year. So at the halfway point, we're doing okay in that regard. In terms of expenses, or revenues rather, state and federal, I've mentioned to the board in previous discussions about the lagging state and federal dollars. Now some of that could be turn back money that was received last year that we're not getting this year, so that can distort that number a little bit, but I am still concerned about the level of increase in our state and federal partner support compared to our growing costs. You will see our interest on investments of doing much better than last year and are ahead of our budget already for the year, so we continue to see positive returns on our fund balance. On the expenditure side, things are running along kind of as expected. The public aid assistance is a little higher than last year, which is a little bit of a surprise and a little bit ahead of our budget, so that's an area to pay attention to. Personal services, which is our staff costs, are right on the overall budget trend line, so that's where we expected things to be. The building and equipment line obviously is higher than last year, largely due to the building project, but still we're sitting under our estimated percentage for the year. So overall, sitting in good position, I think, at the halfway point. On the enterprise fund, the Ponderosa landfill, you'll see that total revenues are $1.5 million against 1.44 level of expenditures, so I'm at about a break even at the halfway point of that budget year. In terms of the second page, the cash and investment balances, you'll see that our total available balance, or available funds rather, are just over $55 million. Towards the top of that page, the 6-month operating needs are a little over $56 million, so we're just a little bit under that 6-month target for available funds. The total county funds available are $117,854,000, and so we continue to have a strong fund balance and have a lot of dedicated funds, obviously, that make up that total dollar amount.
Okay.
Be happy to answer any questions that the board might have on the financial status report.
It's really well laid out. Thank you.
Okay, good. Very good. There's no questions. We'll move on to commissioners' reports on committees. Want to start? Okay,
I got a very short one.
okay, good.
I'm sure that'll change from
Yeah,
2 weeks from now. It'll be
yeah, oh
me
yeah.
and Colleen will probably have long ones. So
Yeah, that's okay.
all right. June 25th, we had our board meeting. After the board meeting, I had a rural action caucus call in. June 26th, I had there was a Main Street construction plan, my street in front of my own place between Victory Drive down to Kennedy Elementary will be tore up probably starting this week or next week. July 1st, me and Will attended the sheriff's office budget meeting and the county attorney's budget meeting. And then later on that afternoon, I had a Blue Earth Nicollet County Safe Roads meeting. Then July 4th, I went out and tilled out in the community garden for about 3 hours. And I felt it.
Boy, that's looking good out there, though.
Is all, I tell you, between Anna and Kirsten now that we have out there, they're good people. I went out there yesterday and they had a group out there working yesterday with them. And it's daunting. It's a daunting task for somebody working part-time out there to keep the weeds down and keep, I mean, that's a full acre of land, but they're doing a good job.
It was a nice picture of you and Will and Anna.
Yeah, that
On
worked out
Facebook,
well. Yeah, we got on NACO News.
Yeah, I saw it.
We got on
Yeah,
the weekly news.
the
that
photos,
picture.
yeah.
So that's
Finally arrived.
I tell you.
He's on it all the time.
Yesterday, I was supposed to go up to the Transportation Alliance meeting. We were going to have a meeting with Emily Murray and Margaret Donahoe and get our act together for next year's funding issues. But it so happened that Emily had a baby on the 4th of July.
Oh.
She had a 6-pound, 3-ounce baby girl. So I didn't have a meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
But I wished her well, and that's the end of my report.
Excellent. Thank you. Mark, you ready?
Mine's even shorter.
Mine's short.
It's just the holiday season. or
Yeah, the
something.
4th of July week tends to.
Work-wise too, whatever. But I really just had, I did have a partners events meeting, short one. I then had met with Jaron Larson of All Seasons Arena yesterday or the day before for a short period and happenings, and enjoyed the 4th of July, people from out of town. So that's my report, Mr. Chair.
Very good.
See,
Thank
the
you.
shortest.
Yep.
Mine's relatively short too because of the holiday. We got a couple meetings that were moved into this week. So I had planning and zoning last Wednesday night. We had one item on the agenda, but it got pulled by the applicant. He just wants to do some more work with the constituency around the area and try to have it more prepared when he comes to the meeting. But then we also did have a great discussion about the compost site over by Good Thunder or Beaufort area.
Yep.
And then turns out, and that night we were talking about some issues we have out there. The Free Press reported that they were closing, but at that point in time, we had not been notified from anyone in Blue Earth County that they were closing. So we were working forward, trying to resolve some of these issues. So at the end of the day, if they don't, we had to have the discussion anyways because that conditional use permit goes with the property. So someone else could buy that property, open up that same exact business again. So it was good discussion, wasn't a waste of time. The boardroom was full with constituents that were concerned about it. Didn't take a whole lot of public comment because it wasn't a public hearing. It was just a work session for the board. But staff has got a handle on it, and we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens now. And then I had my MRCI meeting, our executive meeting. Everything's going really well at MRCI. We have some challenges coming up in the next few years. So we talked about our future with the buildings and whatnot. So a lot of things going on there. And then just working on several ditch and road projects. And other than that, Mr. Chair, that's my report.
Thank you. Colleen?
On the 26th, I went to Minneapolis. The governor did a presentation on housing and talked about the importance of housing and the importance of having it close to busing, buses, infrastructure, schools, grocery stores. So a strong commitment to workforce housing in this state. So the governor, mayor of Minneapolis, Habitat, and somebody else who I can't remember right now, but it was a really good meeting and a lot of conversation about how we have to figure out how to do this workforce housing because housing is getting more and more expensive all the time and people just need safe, affordable places to live. Then I went to Slayton for a Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. There's a new person running it now, Chad, and so I met him, and we had a board meeting. On the 27th, I went to the PUC meeting here on the Wilmarth line. interesting meeting, let's put it that way. Huh? And it was nice, so I also got to speak to the PUC afterwards, and so it's always good to build those connections and see what's coming up next. And then I met with the SBDC about just how they see economic development being managed in this area. On July 1st, Bukata Hayes and Mike Stahlberger and I had a conference call with the people who did the racial covenants for Hennepin County, and talked about, what the process would be if we would do something like that. It's not only for history, but on a lot of our old deeds. We're looking at the time between 1910 and 1960. Some of those deeds have Social Security numbers on, and they have to be redacted. But, nobody's gone back and done that. So this may be an opportunity also for Blue Earth County to get some of those redacted after we go forward with this project. Because people used to use that as all the time. And so we don't know how many there are, but it's something to think about. And then we had department heads on the 3rd. And that's my report, sir.
Very good. Okay. Most of the stuff I've done has been mentioned. We had the sheriff's budget, county attorney's budgets meeting, department heads. On the 4th, I attended 2 parades. I attended the Cambria Parade and got the opportunity to talk about some drainage issues while I was there. And then I attended the Vernon Center Parade and assisted in setting off the fireworks display. And then yesterday, Bob and I had an agenda review. So that's my report.
Perfect.
So, okay, thank you, everyone. If there's no other business, we'll adjourn the meeting.